Joanne Doyle, the Therapeutic Counsellor and Clinical Supervisor in the studio. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Jamila. It's lovely to be here with you.
Thanks. And this isn't your first time in a radio studio, is it?
That's correct, yeah. Many moons ago, I used to produce a feature at BBC Radio Stoke. So it was actually on the Asian programme, and each month I used to interview a doctor or a health professional, and the whole idea of that was to try and promote health within the Asian community. So that was what that was about. And I also, as well as working on the Asian program, I also did quite a few other stories, human interest stories. And that really sort of links up with my career now as a counsellor. It was a real beginning, to be honest with you, because sometimes there would be features that I'd have to do, or interviews that I would have to put together and produce, and some of them would be really quite difficult subjects. And it was as a result of doing that it was suggested to me by my producer that if there are any human interest stories to do, that I might be the one to do them.
Oh, that's awesome. It sounds like you've got a lot of skills there in radio and counselling.
Yeah, there's things that I've accumulated over the years. In different parts of my life, I've done different things.
Yeah, so we spoke earlier about another role that you had in a hospital setting, which was an important stepping stone for you.
Yeah, that's right. So this was really important in terms of my decision to train as a counsellor and to know that I had that ability. So I was working on a patient support service back in Stoke-on-Trent in the early noughties, I would say, so the early 2000s. And I was supporting people who were visually impaired at the time. And I was actually based in an eye clinic, and I worked alongside optometrists and ophthalmologists. So for anyone who isn't sure, that's people who are doctors who are working, in ophthalmology with eyes. And if there was really basically anything that wasn't medically related, that patients would then be directed to the service that I was offering. So I was employed by a visually impaired charity at the time, and in doing that, there were lots of things that were quite routine. Obviously, all these people needed my help and support, but actually, it was the times when people were really distressed. So a part of my job was to be that first port of call when people were given the news that there really wasn't very much more that could be done for their eyesight, and that it was going to diminish, and that they were potentially going to have to be registered as visually impaired. So you can imagine that's an absolutely huge piece of news to receive.
Yeah.
And I would be that first person that they would talk to. And obviously people receive this news in different kinds of ways. Some people are in shock, some people are in disbelief, but all people really are in a state of stress and confusion. And I found that in the course of doing that work, that there were some people that actually would ring me up, phone service, not so much going on online on those days. And sometimes they would ask if they could come in and talk to me. So they wanted to be able to talk to me in private and for a little bit longer than the sort of shorter time period that I would just have being on the help desk. And it was that work that really prompted me to think that I might train as a counsellor. When people are facing a big loss like that, it can bring up lots of other memories of times in their life, and relationships can be impacted. And it was, the best way to put it is, it was the people who came that were really already going sort of below that surface reaction of shock, and they were going through like quite deep emotional processes. it was that part of the work that I found stimulating and challenging. And I would say it was really through doing that job that I began to realise that I might have the capacity to actually, streamline what I was doing and train specifically to work in the therapeutic field.
Well, that's awesome how those skills just came out because you were in that situation. And could you explain what's involved in counselling?
Um, yes, so it's really a big topic. Um, I would say it might be kind of what might be useful is to perhaps define what counselling is. And I know we were talking a bit earlier about this. So, there might be people who are listening that feel that they've got quite a lot of support in their life within their families. They'll have friends. They might have communities that they belong to. But I would say that the difference between talking to someone who is a trusted friend or a family member is that within counselling and within a therapeutic setting, you are really talking to a trained professional. So it takes quite a few years to actually train as a counsellor, and there are various levels of training you can do. When you get a bit further down the line, that's when you start doing the counselling that is really seriously designed to qualify you as a counsellor. And I would say that the difference is that with someone who is a friend and somebody that you know, sometimes you might wonder what they think about you, or you might start thinking about whether they're going to be affected by what you say, or you might think that they come at things from a particular perspective. So when I'm actually working with clients, I'm very neutral. So I don't have any particular position to hold. I don't really have any sort of strong opinion. And that's really like one of the core facets of counselling is that with the actual style of counselling that I'm trained in, the approach is to work with clients in a way where we really see the good in them. So there's that belief underneath that people know really what's good for them and what's best for them. And what I really do with my skills and holding that really defined therapeutic spaces, I help people to decide what it is they want. So there are lots of things that can happen to people in their life, and it's very easy to kind of lose connection with and it's perhaps a term that's overused, but authentic self. We can lose that connection with what we really want in life, and we can get very bogged down in caring for other people. But actually, if we're caring for ourselves and we're tending to our own needs, then we can be better people, we can be healthier people psychologically and physically, and we can reach out to people and care for others better. So it's a really big area, but that's kind of what I would say to you in a nutshell. And the other thing that's really crucial and important, and some people who are listening might well know, is that counselling is confidential. And that's what makes that space really unique and important. So when clients come to me, I work to professional standards, and I have an ethical body that I'm answerable to. And so with a few exceptions, the work that we do together is confidential. And that's really good, because when we don't have to worry about whether someone's going to repeat what we've said, or we're not going to be judged, it really allows people to open up and find out who they really are.
Oh, that's awesome. It sounds like, it's useful speaking to someone who doesn't have that emotional attachment. And what would you say to someone who has thought about going for counselling, but they're a bit hesitant
That's a really good question. And I sometimes get inquiries from people who are at various stages of deciding and wondering about counselling. Um, I think probably, the most important thing to bear in mind with that is that counselling isn't about judging someone. It's not about whether someone is right or wrong. So if somebody was wondering about going into counselling, I think that would be a really important idea for them to hold in mind, that if you go for counselling, your counsellor, when I'm working with people, I don't hold judgment about them. I think the other thing is, people sometimes struggle to put themselves first, and that might hold them back. But as I said just a few minutes ago, it's really important that we do put ourselves first. It's very easy to put that off till another day and think, oh, I don't quite know what's involved. But I would say, give it a go. You're not tied into anything. You could go for counselling, you could go for one session or two or three and see whether you feel that it helps you and it makes a difference for you.
Yeah, that's awesome. That that you're helping people like that. And earlier you requested a song, which is "Oh Holy Night," and this version is by the German American Community Choir. And you've picked this song for reasons. It's important to you, so I'm just going to play that song, and then we'll talk about that in a minute. Why did you request that song?
Yeah, thank you for playing that, Jamila. I requested it because it really brings back a really recent memory of a really, really important experience for me. So literally just over a year ago, I joined a community choir and in Sutton Coldfield, and we had a Christmas show, and this was one of the songs that we sung. It's one of their Got to Sing. That's the choir, the community choir. It's one of their Christmas repertoire, and the last year since joining the choir, feels like it's really lit me up singing.
Oh, that's amazing.
And singing with other people as well. So we had a Christmas show in December, and as you can imagine, the lead up to that, we were singing in different spots and different settings, and it was the first time in decades I had been on a stage in November at Edgbaston Christmas Market, and we were singing this song, and I was there with all the other choir members, and it was absolutely, it like sent shivers down my spine. That experience of being there with everyone else, and yeah, it was kind of brought a tear to my eye. It really felt like a special moment.
That's awesome. And we were also talking earlier about how you've actually got learned to play the piano, and you've even done the exams. Can you tell us a bit about it?
Yeah, so I'm sort of picking up musical threads in my life after a time away, busy getting on with other things. But when I was young, I used to play the piano, and it was a really wonderful thing to do. So lovely to be able to play an instrument. Yeah, and so I did grade through piano, which is, fairly elementary, but I enjoyed music very much, and it's something that I'm hoping to take back up again.
Yeah, and you were also talking about how your faith also was one of the reasons why you decided to become a counsellor.
Absolutely, yes, that's right. Yeah. So, my parents didn't have any particular religion of their own. Um, they decided that they didn't want me to be christened or baptized. They were quite forward thinking in some ways, and they felt that I could choose a religion, a faith, if I wanted one later in life. But they did send me to an all girls Catholic school because it was a good school. And I can remember just singing one particular hymn in the morning at school one day, and there were these great big windows to the side of me, and the sun was shining in, and it was a beautiful hymn. And I just remember again, well, not again, it was probably one of my first experiences of having like shivers run down my spine, and I think I perhaps felt really close to God in that moment. It was perhaps I would be about 14, something like that. So you're just kind of moving out of being a child and just past puberty and into that kind of short period before adulthood, I would say. So it felt like a really, really wonderful moment. It felt like a connection with God, with Spirit, yeah. So you're right that my faith did influence me, because it was the compassion that I feel for people very much steered me, I think, towards doing a role that was therapeutic. And I know that you and I have spoken earlier. So what I learnt to do in training, having that professional training, and gaining those skills to work with people, is I learned how to use that compassion in a different way. I learned not to rescue people, not to just step in all the time. And I would say that the compassion that I have still very, very much underpins the work that I do. But I think the difference between the way I held compassion before and how I do in a therapeutic sense is I very much want people to grow and to develop and to help them, assist them, facilitate, walk along that road with them, but help them to find their way in life that's more fulfilling and a more constructive way of living.
Oh, that's amazing. It's amazing that you're still singing, and you're also doing a bit of experience with the Oikos Cafe, is that right?
Yeah, so Oikos Church and Community Cafe in Erdington, each month they have something called the Evening of Creativity, and I really want to big this up because you and I, that's where we met, isn't it, Jamila?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it is a wonderful night. It's full of music and poetry and art and people doing readings, lots of different types of music there. I mean, I just can't say enough how eclectic it is. So that takes place on, let me get this right, it's on the third Friday of the month, and it's Oikos Cafe on the High Street in Erdington, starting at 6:30, running till 9, and the next one is on April the 17th.
Oh, that's awesome. And you're doing so much to help people, and you've helped people that have a visual impairment, and you also have a visual impairment. So we were talking earlier about how that hasn't held you back. I mean, look at everything what you're doing.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, something that wouldn't necessarily come across on the radio, isn't it? But what people won't know is actually here in the studio with us is my guide dog, Gorillo. Yeah, so there are definitely obstacles that are involved with having a vision impairment, and it's something that I navigate every day. But I think probably what I would say about that is I had an absolutely beautiful, wonderful mum who I probably did receive unconditional love from. And I think she really helped me to believe in myself. So I think there are labels and there are things that we can look at people on the outside and think that we know who they are, can't we? But actually, I probably have a sense of who I am on the inside, despite my visual impairment. And I think probably had a belief in myself, and I wanted to develop the skills I had. I wanted to help people. I wanted to help people, and I still do grow. And fortunately, I have the opportunity to do that in my counselling work. And I think it's important to say as well that I work with a huge range of people, and I work across cultures as well. So, my practice is very much open, really open to anyone who feels that they could benefit from working with me.
Oh, that's awesome. And is there one final thing that you'd like to say to the listeners?
Yes, there is. And I would say take good care of yourself, cherish yourself, and have a bath, read a book, do something for yourself, because it's really important. Self-care is what we call it in the therapeutic field, and my choir and my singing, they're one form of my own self-care. But yeah, be kind to yourself.